Everybody, we know we're late, but it's not our fault. Looks like Governor Ron DeSantis took over. But now we're getting ready to do our thing.
Our turn.
Back off, Ronnie. Didn't he try to get people to say DeSantis? Like more Hispanic? And they said, no, let's just stick with DeSantis. You know, he's like,
what the heck, there's an ace governor. He can decide if he wants to eat broccoli or not.
Okay, so what are we talking about today, loves?
Well, first thing I want to discuss, which is kind of an important thing for a good number of folks that listen in, okay, and it's called returning to work. And the other thing is traveling, school, grandkids. Okay, and this is kind of important because, you know, I kind of thought I had all this stuff figured out until this week, when all of a sudden we had an implosion of people at stages of life looking to do certain things like being able to see their grandkids, new grandkids, being able to travel, being able to come back from travel, which is kind of interesting, and going to school. Now, you would think that those things have nothing in common with trying to stay at work. And, you know, I guess DeSantis, the good governor, went ahead and did a pretty decent intro for me. I got to send him a thank you note for that. You know, I mean, if I had to have somebody doing a lead in, that was a pretty damn good one. You know, so, you know, he's getting better at that. You know, leading into our show. You know, so what I want to do is I want to be able to go ahead and explain what the problem is for you. Because, you know, the folks in the nursing homes, everybody's focusing on the nursing homes. I've been focusing on nursing homes with laboratory business for 2.5 years, okay? This is nothing new, at least nothing new to me, and it shouldn't be anything new to anybody else because that is the name of the game with infectious disease in confined spaces. It's no different than a nursing home than it is in a jail or a college dormitory or a military barracks. We've had these problems just like this forever. You know, you have people in close order, wouldn't you know it? Okay, and so what do? Well, you run around in little teeny tiny circles if you've never had this problem before. Okay, you know, as a flight surgeon with the Air Force, I've done this and I've done that, and I've had a couple issues over the years in dealing with, let's say, these little pandemics or food poisoning outbreaks or whatever it happens to be. That's what flight surgeons do, amongst count the pieces of the pilot after they hit the deck. Yeah, nice, huh? So what we're going to talk about is what does this mean to you, and when it may not be salient at all, or it may creep up on you. What are you going to do if you decide that you want to go on a flight, go someplace, and they're going to insist that before we allow you into our state, you have to get tested? Oh, okay. Well, where do you go? What do you do? Drive up? Okay, so I guess I ought to shut up. I've learned that lesson over the years.
Get you to work on time with triple team traffic and help you get around the changes from the I-4 Ultimate Project.
Stay alive, people.
Our Ask the Experts.
It's all right.
DBO.
This show is not a medical opinion and does not consent to doctor-patient relationship.
Good afternoon, Central Florida, and welcome into another edition of Stages of Life right here on WDBO 107.3 FM, 580 AM. We are live on this Sunday, and our phone lines are open right now, 844-580-WDBO, 844-580-WDBO. Now, if this is the first time you've listened to our station over the last couple days, you're probably thinking, that all sounded different from what I'm used to. And don't worry, you're not going crazy. You don't have to call the doc about hearing things. You heard everything right. We are moving stations. We will now be on 107.3 FM and 580 AM. That will start tonight at midnight. Well, I guess that would be tomorrow at midnight. So this week will be our last week. So what I encourage you to do now, again, those numbers, 107.3 FM and 580 AM, is that when we hit our first breakup here, you flip over to those stations, check out which one you like better, which one sounds better. If neither of them sound to your liking, you can always listen to us through the app. You can always listen to us on your Alexa smart speakers. You just have to say, hey, Alexa, play WDBO. It's that easy. Or on the Google speakers, same thing. And of course, the TuneIn app as well. So plenty of ways to listen to us and plenty of ways to get a hold of us, starting with the phone number 844-580-WDBO, which is actually a lot easier to remember too. My name is Chris Crawford. Here's the man answering all your medical questions over the next hour, Dr. David Klein. Doc, how are you doing today?
I'm feeling pretty darn well, all things considered. I've got to thank Governor DeSantis for the marvelous introduction that he did for me today. We don't get that every week. So this is a special week. That the station is changing to signals that are in many places around town going to be almost impossible to hear, like the front of my yard. I can't pick it up. But in any event, so we're having some issues trying to figure out what to do, where we're going to land and whatnot. So, yeah, it's going to get interesting, but, 96.5 will still be there playing music. So, for News Talk, this is going to be a little bit complicated, I think. So what I wanted to talk about, today is something that is coming up a lot in my practice, and that's what do you do about returning to work? What do you do about travel? How do you handle something like a 2-week quarantine if you're coming back from Mexico, or if you're coming back from Europe, or if you're coming back from wherever you happen to be? Because if you're going to go on vacation, with everything changing as rapidly as it's been doing, it can change by the time you come back from your week-long holiday or your 2-week holiday or whatever the cruise happens to be. Getting off the boat may in fact be a problem, or getting back to life, because these 2-week quarantines really stink after months worth of self-imposed quarantine. And so we're having problems with employers. So a bunch of folks went out and partied in the streets recently, in Seattle, and they partied in the streets in Minneapolis and Miami and brought back COVID for everybody else to enjoy. Some of them may have shared it at the bars and whatnot, but I don't think that's really the whole story. So now we're seeing an uptick in cases amongst young people. Well, gee, the last time I went to a nightclub, they weren't all that young necessarily. However, whatever your excuse happens to be. But what do you do? So now the people at your work need to have you tested, or the people at work need testing. And the way the testing is being done right now in most areas of the state, most areas of the country, is it can take upwards of 2 weeks to get your results back. Now, that doesn't save you any time if you're in a 2-week quarantine, now does it? So what is your time worth? What is your employer's time worth? So we have been going out. I've got a group that I work with out of Jacksonville, actually, called Florida Laboratory Analysis. And Florida Laboratory Analysis was started by me and 2 other guys, essentially to work on nursing homes, nursing home patients, nursing home issues, mostly infectious disease. We started 2.5 years ago with it. And it put us in a very bizarre position. The position was that we needed to be able to turn around infectious disease assays in a matter of hours. So we started getting into molecular genetics and started getting very good at it, as it turns out. And then, boom, COVID hits. And so it was already a sweet spot for us. Very few laboratories in the country actually did this work. We were one of them, and we really figured out how to hammer this nail. So we're able to get these PCR results back in 48 hours. We have 2 different platforms that we use to do it. Why? Because if one happens to either be broken, as it turns out, or if it happens to be inaccurate, or if it happens to have a problem, we have the secondary one that can do the job. We also figured out a way of making the faster machine, which is the most sensitive of the bunch. It's the same one that the CDC uses, except ours is about 50 times faster. And we figured out a way of making it 5 times more sensitive. So it is the most sensitive PCR machine out there. Period, exclamation point. Now, why do you care about this? The answer is very, very simple. Because if you need to get your office back to work, and let's say you're in a legal office, I probably shouldn't help you, okay? But if you're in a legal office and you have, let's say, 15 or 20 people, and you need to be tested so that you can actually do things like be in deposition, like go to court, like go to the jailhouse, like do whatever the heck a lawyer does, okay? How do you get your results back and get them all back at one time so that way everybody can show up at work? Because after all, let's say it's a restaurant. We just did a big restaurant here in town. We've several, really. And so what will happen is that all of these people have to report at the same time in order to open up the restaurant, because it's closed right now, right? So they're going to open up on Monday after being shut down on Thursday. So we grabbed the samples on Friday. I had to go in my office on my day off to take blood work and do these PCRs. Now, why did I do that? To prove that we could get it done on time. And wouldn't you know it, we had them resulted last night. which is very, very interesting. We did identify some people that need to be, let's just say, set aside, sometimes known as quarantine for another 2 weeks, but the rest of the people can show up to work safely and do their job, which means they're not going to lose $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a day being shut down. Now, we have lots and lots of bars, lots and lots of nightclubs, lots of offices that are now just not working very well because they're not being tested. So you too can go down to the Orange County Convention Center and stand in line for 5 hours and maybe get a test and maybe get it back sometime in the next 10 to 14 days or longer. Or we can do it for you in 2 days. So what's it cost? Okay, everybody thinks it's going to cost a fortune. It's $102. That's it. So what's your time worth? Does insurance cover it? The answer is negatory. Blue Cross won't cover it. United won't cover it. None of them cover it. Okay, except for Medicare. Oddly enough, Medicare will pay for it, but none of the others will. So for $100, you go back to work. So the employers are lining up for us to do this. Kind of a cool place to be. Why? Because we can run almost 400 studies per hour out of Jacksonville, and if the wind is to our rear. Okay, if the wind is behind us, if we have trailing winds, following winds, we can get 900 an hour done. So we can do the entire state, okay, and get it done in a weekend if we had to. So if anybody's interested, you have an employer that's looking for people, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We got to go back to work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my sales manager's telephone number. Wouldn't you know it? He is going to be ripping mad at me on Monday. That's too bad. His name is Robert. Smile at him when you speak to him. But it's Robert, and it's at 407-255-4371. That's 407-255-4371. And he'll get you set up. Very, very simple. I'm probably, Stages of Life is on vacation this week. We are shut down. Okay? So what does it mean? It means we're probably going to be coming in doing these tests anyway. So I'm prepared to actually come in and do them as I did on Friday, which was really kind of sad because I was the only one there doing these things, which meant I had to man the front door, back door, draw the blood, do the PCR swabbings, package the stuff up, and do everything but centrifuge it because my tech was there to do that. Or you can call Florida Laboratory Analysis in Jacksonville and we'll get technicians to you, which is 407-636-3939. And we're sending technicians, phlebotomists, whomever, nurses, all over the state getting these samples. So if you have an employer that has, let's say, 50 or 100 people, frankly, it's easier for us to send somebody to you than it is to have you show up into my office. Really, that I don't get affected from all these people running through.
There you go.
So in any event, I'm going to give these numbers one more time. Then I'll get down to business. So it's 407-255-4371, and that's Robert's number. And he's happy to take your call anytime, day or night. And then Florida Laboratory Analysis is 407-636-3939, and they don't work all day or night. Getting them is sometimes a little bit dicey. They don't even answer my phone call. So Robert is your best bet. So what do we got today?
There you go. Well, we got to hit the quick break and hit the 3 big things you need to know, and then we'll hit the calls. 844-580-WDBO. Go ahead, give us a call right now. 844-580-WDBO. You're listening to Stages of Life on WDBO 107.3 FM in 5.
Yeah, so people are already asking about the changes on... Hey guys. All right, we got some questions on the Facebook feed. Hi everybody. We didn't get in trouble too much with Dr. Dave's opening
I hope not.
Child. I can't get it in my front yard. I can't get it in my front yard.
Can't get it in my front yard. It's true. I can't get it in my front yard. Well, that's just the way it goes. But we have a very strong signal. No, you don't. No, you don't. So, it's just kind of like that's one of the problems with being traded. It's kind of like being on a baseball team. You're traded to another club. And that's kind of what happened. Mm-hmm. So I don't like being traded without my permission. It bothers me. So I've been traded to another club.
Tanya's on the line here at Facebook, and she's asking, should we take colostrum to prevent illness or only when you feel sick? I have low immunoglobulins and fibromyalgia.
Okay, Tanya, 2 things. 1, if you have fibromyalgia, have yourself checked for autoimmune thyroid disease. It's something called Hashimoto's. There are 2 tests that I typically have people get. One's called a TPA. okay, sometimes known as antithyroid, as a thyroid peroxidase antibody, and then ATG, which is antithyroglobulin. Because if you have autoimmune thyroid disease, you need to fix that. Okay, and it's cheap. I have that problem. It costs me about 18 cents a day to fix it. Now, with regards to the colostrum, what you do is you take 2 colostrum capsules at bedtime. And those are lactoferrin-containing colostrum. And 2 at bedtime gives you what you need generally to attenuate or minimize the risk and or the severity of the illness. But should you get sick, then you go ahead and take 2 of those colostrum 4 times a day. So now, why? Because there's one thing to decrease your risk of flu, something else to decrease your risk of coronavirus. But rhinovirus and adenovirus, they're out there also, and they can make you pretty darn sick. So when you take the colostrum, 2 capsules will work within 30 minutes so that the symptoms of the cold almost go away entirely. But it only lasts 3.5 hours. Then you take 2 more, and it lasts 3.5 hours. And then you take 2 more, and it lasts 3.5 hours. And you do that for 2 or 3 days, and generally the cold will pass. So the question is a good one. The answer is a little bit less elegant than I'd like it to be. So generally speaking, for prevention, 2 at bedtime. And then if you get ill, you go 4 times a day. That'd be 8 capsules a day. Is that, hopefully, Tanya, that answered your question. But please get your thyroid checked out, because that's probably, and in fact, hypothyroidism is the #1 cause of fibromyalgia. People are told fibromyalgia has no known cause. It only has no known cause if you fail to find it. Everything has a cause. That's just life. Nothing happens just for grins. Okay, you're not faking it. This is a real problem. But hypothyroidism, I have it.
Here we go.
80 a.m. If you want to join us here live on the air, the number to call is 844-580-WDBO, 844-580-WDBO, because of the lead.
Sure. All right. All right.
Night, and is there anything I can do about it?
So Lee, there is a reason, and it's called your temperature. Your temperature drops at night. Okay, it hits its peak around 10, 11, 12 p.m. and then starts to fall off. It starts to pick up again around 3 o'clock in the morning. So rheumatologic problems like this typically are worse at night. Another thing about decrease in temperature is that there's a higher likelihood of having a heart attack in the middle of the night than it is during the day for the same reason. So it has to do with your temperature. So I would be looking at that and going, okay, well, what's so special about rheumatoid in the middle of the night? Because again, there are a significant number of people with rheumatoid arthritis that also have thyroid disease, which means your temperature is going to drop even more profoundly than the average bear. A normal human temperature is 97.6 at 7 a.m. and it's 99.6 by 10 p.m. All right, people think it's 98.6. No, that's a median temperature. So if you find that you wake up in the morning and your temperature's 96 and change, which is very possible with you, you take your temperature, get a good one, and see if it's not in the 96s, or lower. If it is, then your problem is Hashimoto's. And the way you can start feeling better is to find somebody to treat the Hashimoto's and treat it properly. The second thing you do is you go ahead and downregulate the immune system, and you do this with vitamin D3. Cholecalciferol, the dosage is 5,000 IUs, and you take it with a fish oil. Why? Vitamin D is not a vitamin. It's actually an estrogen receptor blocker, or actually a selective estrogen receptor blocker. But what's neat about vitamin D is that it helps the body regain its, let's just say, its focus with regards to the immune system. So this is kind of what you're going to want to do and kind of what you have to do. Now, what is it that may benefit you a little bit more? And these are something called chelated minerals. So zinc, selenium, vanadium, and chromium. If you look on Stages of Life, vitamins.com, look for something called magic minerals. Read what's in it. Read the ingredients. That's what you're going to need. You can use our product or you can cobble something together, but that's where you're going to want to be with it. So, Lee, that's probably what's going on with you. I've seen this many, many times over the past 42 years. Happy to help if I can.
I appreciate you calling in here, Lee. That number, if you want to call in just like that, 844-580-WDBO. Got all open lines, but about one here. So you won't have to wait long to get in line and talk with the doc. 844-580-WDBO. 844-580-WDBO. We'll be back with more of your calls on the way. You're listening to Stages of Life right here on 107.3 FM AM.
So that was kind of weird on the FM part. You didn't notice it, but they did something. Just
What
popped
happened?
away for a second. Came back. We got it. It's all straight. But with regard to Tanya's question, she said she did do the testing.
Good. What'd you find?
AVISE to AVISE testing. AVISE testing.
No. Okay. What I'm looking for is just a simple $15 test at Quest. We do them in my office. Okay, and it's thyroid peroxidase antibody and antithyroid globulins. It could not be any simpler to do. Okay, and the rheumatologist may not be the best place to get it done because what they're doing is looking for mixed autoimmune issues. They generally miss them all. And, that's just kind of the way it goes. But TP and ATG would explain what's going on with you. And get that done. It's, again, each one of those tests is $15. It's like $30 worth of blood work.
Okay, another one?
Yeah.
All right, should you separate CLA and flax oil, and how many flax oil at bedtime?
Yeah, you do separate them. The CLA you take 2 twice a day, and the flaxseed you take 2 at bedtime. So if they're separated, they seem to work a little bit better. Now, if that's not strong enough for you, and about 1 person in 10 needs an extra kick in the tail, and then you take 3 flaxseed oil. That's you too can poop like Dr. Dave. That's how it's done. Okay, and when you overwhelm the body's ability to absorb these oils, what it does is it passes through very much like mayonnaise to a submarine sandwich. Okay, it glides things through, and it's very, very safe, very easy on the system, and does not cause any other consternation. Let's say.
I think
Glide, we used to call it. I need some Glide.
that's the wife with her disgust face.
Yeah. She's upset with me.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, here we got another one.
She never likes
What's your
poop talk.
opinion on supplemental digestive enzyme pills?
They're good. Okay.
pills,
Enzyme. Yeah, what happens is as we get older, and some people as they get younger, as it turns out, their pancreas works less and less well. Folks that have, let's say, difficulties with milk are a great example of how this can happen. So you can end up with dairy intolerance, either due to problems with the sugars in the milk or the proteins due to digestive enzyme issues. So taking the enzymes is sometimes a very easy way to help people with bloating, flatulence, eructation, sometimes known as burping, but just feeling bad about life. Are they expensive? They need not be expensive. Some are better than others, so you kind of have to play with it until you find the one that's right for you. We keep 2 of them in the office. The one that most people like is called Paleozyme. That's spelled Paleozyme. And if you go on Stages of Life Vitamins, look at it and just see what's in it, and you'll see what you need to have. Look at the one that you've got and see how it compares to ours. You may have a better one. You may have a worse one. Who knows? But it's not a bad thing, and you take it with your meal each and every time, and generally people feel better. Not a bad way to go. It's a whole lot less expensive than probiotics, too, by the way.
Really?
What else we got?
What else? I just tipped off that page. Let's see. Oh, Tommy Hawk said his doctor recently put him on D3.
Good.
I said 5,000 use at UI.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Tommy. Good for you. D3 cholecalciferol. Vitamin D1 converts to vitamin D2 in your liver. Vitamin D2 converts to vitamin D3 in your skin if you are exposed to ultraviolet light, which we tell people not to do because it ages them. So you're taking the right stuff, which is the hot sauce. It's called vitamin D3. 5,000 IUs is the starting dosage, and you take it with an oil. I prefer fish oil, but really evening primrose oil, borage oil will work equally well. You need to because vitamin D3 is a lipid-soluble hormone. It is not a vitamin. So, Tommy, good for you. He did exactly the right thing. Or good for your doctor for finally figuring it out.
That's a bet. He says he's going to take omega-3 also, since he heard you
That's
mention
it.
that.
Yeah, that precisely. That's really, you get more bang for your buck. The right way to take omega-3s is you want to make sure that you're getting enough of the EPA and DHA components. So look at the bottle, look for how much EPA, how much DHA, and they need to add up between the two to 14 to 1,500 milligrams, and then you have to take enough capsules to get there. So the cruddier fish oils, you may have to take 6 to 8. The better ones, you may only have to take 2. So you'll see the difference when you look at what's in it and understand what you're reading. So what else we got there?
Ian was follow up on that question, or he wanted to know if you can take too much of the supplements.
Which ones?
The enzyme ones.
The enzymes, no. I mean, unless you choke on the tablets, I mean, you really can't take too much. That would probably do it. Other than that, your body will just simply digest the digestive enzymes. You can't really take too much of them. When it comes to supplements, some of them can be a little bit dicey or dangerous. The minerals are the one place where you can probably do the greatest damage. Number 2 would be vitamin A. But that's just about it. You know, people say, well, but what about A, D, E, and K? Because they're all lipid soluble. Well, D you can't overdose on. Nobody's ever gotten sick with it. A, you can get sick. Vitamin K is tough. Vitamin E, if you take more than 800 units, you can develop things like hip fractures.
Okay.
So there are reasons not to do it.
Give me a little bit longer here for these questions. One, just if you have a quick answer for a best gallbladder flush.
Yes, I do. Okay. People are used to doing things like, I'm going to suck down all this lemon juice. Really, the best way to do this, and I have this problem, so I can tell you firsthand what it feels like, is NAC, stands for N-acetylcysteine, and you take 500 milligrams 4 times a day, and with it, this is a white and blue sandwich here. Okay, the blue is guaifenesin, 200 milligrams, and you take them 4 times a day. So you take 1 tablet and 1 capsule 4 times a day, lots of water, and what will happen is the bile will start to become thinner so it can pass through. After 3 to 6 weeks, then you take something called milk thistle. And what it does is it makes the gallbladder contract and squeezes the sludge or stones out. So you're going to have a bad weekend when you do it because it's going to cause a stomach ache, but then you'll be done with it. So it's actually, that is how you flush it out. You want to flush it out? I just taught you how to do it.
And welcome back to Stages of Life right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and 580 AM. We are live here, and you can give us a call, 844-580 WDBO, 844-580-WDBO. Dr. David Klein is here every Sunday from 3 to 4 p.m. answering all your medical questions, and he does this for free, takes time out of his day to do this for you, and you got to take advantage of it because I don't know of an offer out there quite like it. 844-580-WDBO. And let's go ahead and start this second half hour off with Kathy. She's calling in from right here in Orlando. Kathy, welcome to the show. What's your question for the doc?
Hi. Well, thank you, Dr. Klein, for your show. It's always so informative and wonderful.
Well, thank you.
My question is, I'd actually just like your opinion on the use of stents when there is blockage in a heart artery.
Fair enough. Okay. It actually isn't a bad way to go. It beats the heck out of having a heart attack. Okay, all things considered. If you have the choice between the two, you'll really want to try to prevent it. But the problem with the stents is people think that once it's in, it's done, and they can go ahead about their life and do all the wrong things. If this person that has this is a smoker, they have got to stop. Okay, if it was years ago that they did it, then the stents will work that much better. The second thing is you need to make sure that you're keeping the viscosity or the stickiness of the blood down. And you do this, and they'll talk to you. They'll say, well, you have to take an aspirin a day, or you need to put you on one of these medications that will thin the blood a little bit, and that's fine. But fish oil does equally well for this. And what you're looking for is a high-potency omega-3. And you want to make sure that you're getting, again, at least 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams of the combined EPA and DHA. Now, what this does is kind of neat. Okay, the EPA is an anti-inflammatory, but it also decreases the viscosity of the blood. So what caused the stenosis to begin with, the narrowing, what caused that was inflammation of what's called a bifurcation of the arteries. That only happens where the artery divides in two, okay, or comes to an L or a T or something like that. If it divides in two, the area at the tip of the corner, so in other words, so you're coming off of I-4, okay, and you're pulling off on the right, so you can go off on an exit, okay. You could have gone straight. What happens is a certain number of people go straight on and hit that embankment, okay? And when that happens with blood, it causes that the endothelium, the portion of the artery on the inside, to break down, and then it starts to form a clot there. And that's where the cholesterol crystals start to deposit, and then it becomes stenotic. So there are certain places in the body where it's very predictable, and the reason for this has to do with the anatomy, understanding of the anatomy. So the doctors will go, well, you need to cut back on your cholesterol, and we'll start you on a statin, and a whole bunch of things they have you do, none of which may do you any good at all. But getting the stent is a good idea. Keeping your viscosity down is perfect. And then I'm going to ask you to do something very magical, and it's to start on high-dose folic acid, because it's the only thing ever been shown to reverse plaquing of the arteries. So just because you're getting past one area of stenosis doesn't mean that you don't have it elsewhere. So 5,000 micrograms of folic acid. We have a product called Hyperfolate. That's the one I use. You can look around and try to cobble it together. You can very easily find 400 microgram tablets. You just have to take 12 or 13 per day, which is not a bad way to do it. It gets costly if you do it that way. So what's my opinion? My opinion is that if you need it, especially if you're getting to the 70 to 80% stenosis area, that's really when you need to go with it, because people tend to become symptomatic when it hits 90, and then it becomes a little bit more dangerous and actually technically harder to put the stent in. So, Kathy, does that answer your question, or did I talk around you?
No, that was very good. But I just want to clarify with the folic acid. Did I understand you to say it reverses the plaque?
Yeah, it reverses the plaque.
Build-up?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. So, like with my dad was kind of an interesting dude. Okay, he passed away at the age of 92 and would have lived longer had he not listened to his doctors. It's kind of one of these sorts of things. When you're the son, and I got him to that age, okay, then one of his poker buddies said, hey, you really need a second opinion from a cardiologist, and the guys killed him. In any event, be that as it may, it happens. It's not a mistake he'll ever make again. So what happened was he had a left anterior descending obstruction that was like 90%, but he had full collateralization. He could swim. The 90-year-old guy could swim an hour. Okay, I can't swim. I can't walk an hour. He could swim an hour. Okay, stroke, but he couldn't walk 250 feet. And this confused the cardiologist sufficiently to kill him. So he said, well, you must have claudication. My dad had varicose veins. They hurt. So when he was on his feet, it hurt. He didn't bother to ask him or listen when I told him, hey, the guy can swim an hour. Can you? You know what I mean? So they went ahead and opened him up and killed him. So what do I think? I think that it's a good thing to do. I take it because I like to keep my arteries open. And it's something you ought to be doing anyway. So, Kathy, does that help?
That they did.
Pardon?
Did they end up with a bypass?
Yeah, they did a bypass on a 92-year-old guy who was asymptomatic, and he died of infection. He made it through the surgery. He made it into the coronary care unit. He was eating the next day. They discharged him to the floor and then home. He was home in 3 days after open heart, right? Okay, and he died of MRSA from the IV site. Okay, so I'm still a little, if you can't detect it in my voice, I'm still a little bitter about it because I was rather attached to my dad.
Yes.
But, again, he was hard-headed. He said, well, the guy said that I might die. And I said, Pop, you might die anyway. So what do you think you're going to do? You're 92 years old. And so he said, well, but he said, I could drop dead any day. I said, the guy's a genius, don't you think? He was looking at your EKG upside down. So so in any event, that was, I was not really happy about it. So if you're going to have your heart done, steer clear of South Florida. I got to tell you, it's just kind of like, you're starting to look around for Curly, Mo, and Joe. It's just the way that it works. I felt really bad about it. But yeah, it's a bad story.
That is unbelievable, Doc. Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
I'm still irritated, But in any event,
Yeah, I'm irritated for you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so when I tell people, hey, try to avoid going to the hospital, George C. Scott, did a great movie back in the day called Hospital. Watch it, okay? My dad didn't. Yeah. It cost him. So, okay, well, who else do we have on the line there? What do we got?
Well, we've got Martha. She's calling in from DeLand, and if you want to call on the show like Kathy and Martha are doing, you can, 844-580-WDBO. Marcia, go ahead. Welcome on to the show.
Hey, hello.
Hi, Marcia. How are you doing?
I've been to a couple of dermatologists. Okay. And I'm nervous. I'm really nervous. Okay, so I've been to a couple of dermatologists, and they can't seem to figure this out. But I have a rash that started on my foot. It itched really, really bad, and then all of a sudden it broke into blisters. And it stayed by my little toe, but then it moved up all the way across that foot. And then now I'm also getting it on the back of my scalp and neck.
All right.
And yeah, they've given me drugs and
Marcia, what have they
stuff
given
to
you?
put on it and stuff, and
Yeah.
nothing is helping.
What?
Topical antibiotics. I can't even tell you, just ointments and stuff. And they finally said just wash your hair with tea tree oil.
Okay, I bet that worked real
Now,
well.
one time I had to take antibiotics for about 20 days for a tooth, and that seemed to help.
Oh, imagine
She did
that.
a bacterial,
Yes.
but she did a, what do you call it, a biopsy or whatever?
Yeah.
Or just a scrape, and it didn't come back bacterial.
Okay. All right. Let's Marcia, this is a brilliant question. Okay. So you have different types of bacterial cultures. You have to use the right medium actually to find growth at all. So let's say that you had something along the lines of a mycotubercular infection. Okay, something similar to TB. Okay. So there's one called microtubercular marinum. And there's one called avenum. And so these things are very, very slow growing bugs. And so if you use the wrong medium, you're just not going to find them. And in fact, if you don't wait long enough, you're not going to find them because they may take 6, 12, 14 weeks to grow. So typically what they do is they do the culture, they wait 3 days, and if it's not there, it must not be growing. So the old CNS technique, culture and sensitivity, may not be appropriate for you for this infection. Generally, what we do with these sorts of things is we do a DNA testing on it, which will look for about 30 different bacteria and viruses to see what is causing it. Okay, when I first read the synopsis of what was going on, I was thinking, this might be shingles. But it doesn't have to be. You can have all kinds of different issues that will look like herpetic lesions, which are erythematous or red lesions with a little blister on them. But if it was on your feet like that, more than likely it had to do with being exposed to the environment. And I would think that you would have a slow-growing cell wall deficient organism causing this. And when they get better, especially with things like clindamycin, okay, if they gave you clindamycin for your tooth infection and it started getting better, they should have figured this thing out right away. And then you continue with the clindamycin or doxycycline. Those are my two favorites for this, for about 3 months. And that takes care of it. So, can you go ahead and culture these things out? And the answer is yes, but you need to actually culture for them very, very specifically. But this is going to end up being a cell wall deficient organism in all likelihood. And so how do you fix it? For about $30, you use doxycycline. I prefer doxycycline for it because you only have to take it once a day. Clindamycin you need to take a couple times a day, but it also has other issues with the gut. So, Marcia, talk to your family doc. Okay, that would be the person I would go to and say, hey, look, I spoke to Dr. Klein, and he suggested that I go on doxycycline for about 6 weeks and then see what happens with it, because that's probably what it's going to take to fix this thing up. So, Marcia, let me know how you do, okay? Because this is the kind of stuff I like. I like the hard ones.
All right, there we go. Good stuff. All right, like it. Good stuff there, Marsha. Appreciate you joining us here. 844-580-WDBO is the number. We've got the lightning round coming up next. 844-580-WDBO. You're listening to Stages of Life on 107.3 FM.
Okay, ready for some questions from the internet?
Sure, what we got?
We actually have a few.
Or if we could also do them on the air if we want.
Yeah, it's up to you.
Yeah, it's up to you. Well, we could do them. If they're good questions, we can do them twice.
All right, so Nanette said, I've been around someone who just tested positive for COVID-19, so I have been advised not to come to work. Started June 19th. I've been fine, no symptoms. I started the colostrum. Should I include the black licorice?
Oh, it's not black licorice. It's licorice root extract. Okay, and so I love black licorice. Okay, but in order for you to get enough glyceric acid out of black licorice, you would have to make yourself pretty darn fat. It doesn't make any sense. So you want to look for the capsules. You take 2 a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. We have the liquid in the office because they ran out of the capsules in my distributor. So you just have to be very careful with it. But so they put you on quarantine June 9th. Here we are. We're almost into July. So you've lost 2 weeks worth of work. We could have tested you for $102 and gotten you back at work. That is a case in point for why you would do a test. So yeah, you got your unemployment maybe, but if you're earning more than the unemployment, guess what? You took a hit. So $102 would have gotten you a PCR and 2 days later you would have been back to work.
Okay, also she says her husband's ALT was 42 2 months ago, and it shows 50. Should we be concerned, and your suggestions?
Okay, generally speaking, okay, it really depends on where you got the blood drawn. If you went to the laboratory and they took the drug or the tube of blood and then shook it, shake, and put it down so that it does whatever it is that it does, okay, then that's enough to push the transaminases upwards. You need to know, okay, that there's no reason at all to shake those tubes of blood like that. Okay, it's going to clot. That's what you want it to do. There's no anticoagulant in it. There's nothing to shake. But in the process of shaking it, it actually lyses some of the red cells, releasing the transaminases, and you can have false positives. That is a problem. I would repeat it, but I would tell the phlebotomist, the person taking your blood, the brilliant person with the needle and the tourniquet, do not shake the tube. Put it down gently, okay, and then see what the results are. Do not shake the tube. That is the key to this business. And so I can't tell you the number of people that have gone through hepatitis screens, biopsies, because the technician shakes the tubes. So, at stages we do our own lab work for the most part, not entirely, but we are very, very careful about handling these samples because you can have sampling error and you can have measurement error. The other thing is what happens if they put it in the back of a truck for 3 or 4 hours going to Tampa, or it sits outside the doctor's office. It's 102 degrees out there. It's baking inside of a metal box waiting to be picked up. Inside that box, it's probably 130 or 140 degrees. And if you think for a minute that it's going to be fresh and tasty, you would be wrong. So I would recheck it, but do it properly and carefully. What else we got there, babe?
We got...
That's a great question.
That was good.
Yeah.
Dee, who was talking earlier about the fibro, and you said check the thyroid.
TP and the ATG.
Yeah, she said perimenopause and osteoporosis as well.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, here's something cool about hypothyroidism. So people tend to like to think that one hormone does one thing or it does one group of things, but hormones work on the genetic level. They make genes turn on and off, and they work in combination. So I want you to imagine that you're at high school and there's a row of lockers, okay, and they all have the same dials on them, wouldn't you know? All the same combination locks, but they all have different combinations, or they mostly have different combinations. I suspect that there's a limit to the number of combinations, right? Okay, so if the combination is right, the locker will open. If one of those numbers is wrong, it will not. One of the things about thyroid disease is that progesterone and testosterone levels have to be adequate, or you can develop something called functional hypothyroidism. So no estrogen, TSH doesn't go up, even if you are hypothyroid. No progesterone, no testosterone, it doesn't work at the gene itself. So being perimenopausal is a piece of information that's terribly important to me. That can lead to something called functional hypothyroidism. And so we see these people all day long. I can't lose weight. I can't this. I can't that. And then you bring their hormone levels up, not to a 20-year-old level, but to a 40-year-old, and then things start to work again. It's pretty impressive. So yeah, that's a very important piece of data that you just gave me. So you probably need to be taking what's called bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, and that may help you with your fibromyalgia, because nothing is worse than having hot sweats at night, can't go to bed. And you know something? I can make anybody have fibromyalgia by taking a piece of tape and a thumbtack. And I take that thumbtack and I tape it to your bottom. And what happens is when you go to sleep at night, you roll over. Every time you do that, you wake up.
30
okay?
seconds. Finish it.
So no sleep, fibromyalgia. Okay, so 30 seconds, and what do we got?
Something like that. You don't have enough. No, that's it.
Tommy Hawk likes his black licorice.
Up, yes.
That's real men, Tommy, like black licorice.
Fair enough. Here we go.
Especially the Australian stuff. That is some good black licorice.
Here we go.
HD2 Daytona Beach, Cox Media Group Station.
Powered by New South Window Solutions.
Welcome back to Stages of Life right here on WDBO 107.3 FM and 580 AM. We are going to jump right back to the phone lines momentarily. Nick and Lake Mary, you're going to be up, but real quick, Doc, before they do that, we got about 5-6 minutes left. I want you to give out that information you talked about earlier, what you guys are working on at the office this week. Maybe we can give them Robert's phone number one more time, too.
Okay, if you have issues, okay, that you need to be tested for, Okay, we're happy to help you. So Robert is the guy to go to. He's my sales manager. His number is at 407-255-4371. And he'll be happy to talk to you and do what needs to be done. One way or the other, we'll make sure we can get you tested. Or you can call the office. Now, this is not Stages of Life. This is Florida Laboratory Analysis at 407-636-3939. And be patient with me when you talk to those guys, because the folks that answer the phone there are the technicians. So if they're in the middle of a PCR run or some such bit of work, they're not going to answer the phone because they can't. They got their hands tied up. And we don't have a secretary up there because, one, we don't need one. And two, we have enough people to pay. So again, that's 407-636-3939. That's in Jacksonville. Or Robert's at 407-255-4371. And tell him I told you to call, and he'll track me down. So what's going to happen.
All right.
He's
good
a good
stuff.
dude.
And as advertised, good. As advertised, and I'm sure Robert really appreciates giving out his phone.
Oh
number all
yeah,
these times,
he
too.
hates it. I'd give you his home phone if you hang around.
Oh, in the meantime, let's go to Nick. He's calling in from Lake Mary. Nick, welcome on the show. What's your question for Doc?
Well, I've got a coccyx issue. Had it for 3-4 years now.
All right.
Had a perineal cyst out, and they went back in within a year, took out a second one. Two different processes, but started having this pulsating. And I've been to Mayo Clinic, I've been to my pain doctors, I've been to nerve doctors. They can't figure out what it is or how to stop it. They've done blocks, they've done several things, but it happens about 4 to 5 nights a week, and it'll go from an hour up to 6-7 hours, and it pulsates on that coccyx and drives you insane.
All right.
The only thing I found that works on it at all is some ice, and that takes a while. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
All right, Nick, what I'm going to wreck you. The good news is that you're not that far from where I'm at right now, actually. Okay, what I use for these sorts of things, and what it sounds like somebody nicked one of the dorsal sensory nerves as they went in to take out the pilonidal cyst. A pilonidal cyst is a let's say a communication between the skin and the spinal canal that's not supposed to be there. And then it gets infected. They have to treat it. They have to excise it. But in the process of doing this, sometimes you can nail these teeny tiny little nerves. So what I do when people develop these sorts of processes is I use a transdermal medication that I invented about 20 years ago. And it's a combination of gabapentin and ketoprofen in a particular base, okay, which we named after the guy that invented it, which was his name was George Wrench. He was a patient of mine also. The guy was a Marine at the Chosin Reservoir. The guy was pretty cool. Got shot in the face. And so he became a patient of mine. I was treating his facial pain with the base and 2 other medicines that the medicines I put together for him. And so what we do is we put a spot of medication on there about the size of a chocolate chip, maybe a little bit more, and you'll know in 5 minutes whether it'll work. So you may benefit from this. If you give my office a call, we're going to know in 5 to 10 minutes whether this is the right thing to do. And unfortunately, we're going to be closed until a week from Monday because I kicked everybody in my office out. Twice a year I do this. I tell them to go spend time with their family. It makes you nicer. So they won't be back, I think, until July 6th. But yeah, if you want to come on in, just make an appointment, because we have to go through the formalities. And we can try that, and you're going to know in 5 minutes. And it does not hurt a bit. Okay, it's just a simple indignity of standing up and allowing me to put the stuff where the sun doesn't shine. Okay, and you'll know in just a few minutes whether it'll work or not. And it's remarkable. So I haven't had to send anybody for carpal tunnel surgery in about 15 years using this. And it's shocking the number of folks that actually get better with this. And it's worth a try. Going in there and burning it, freezing it, whatnot, none of that stuff works. And predictably it doesn't, because the nerves that they nailed aren't accessible very easily that way. But the salve goes to work. It'll penetrate to a depth of about 1/2 inch, which, by the way, is about twice as far as it has to go to hit that spot that's bothering you. So give my office a call at 407-679-3337. That's 407-679-3337. Again, it's we'll have people in and out of there in the mornings this week because they're sending things out by mail. We have a fairly good business sending out nutraceuticals all over the country, but they can answer the phone and they will. So if you can call in, we'll be happy to see you, Nick. All right, give that a try, and I'm quite sure we can help. What else we got
All
there?
right, good stuff there, Doc. We actually only have about 1 minute left, so I don't think we will have time to go to our last caller there.
Okay,
unfortunately,
can I catch her off the air?
Yeah.
Okay, if you can keep her there, I'll just do it after air. So in any event, so again, Stages of Life Medical Institute, 407-679-3337. You can visit us at stagesoflifemedicalinstitute.com, stagesoflifevitamins.com, and suffernomore.com. You can like us on Facebook, or you can hate us on Facebook. You can do whatever you want to, but Facebook's actually a pretty cool thing. And we have Stages of Life Radio, and you can hear me babble 24/7, or at least until I make you sick enough to turn me off. Thank you so very, very much. It was a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to next week.
And a reminder for those of us who tuned in new this week, we will be on 107.3 FM and 580 AM next week. So be sure to tune in there. If you tune in to 96.5, you will not hear.
Hey, Doc.
So make sure
Yes.
107.3.
Give me 1 sec here. I'll line you up with the caller.
We'll be back
Excellent.
at 3 o'clock next week. You can listen to us there. Appreciate everyone listening to WDBO 107.3 FM and 580 AM.
All right, so we have a caller that we're going to do in just a moment, as soon as they can connect me with him. And if you can believe what's on the screen there, he has a problem with constipation. And I'll tell you what, if you can't go to the bathroom, nothing else matters.
WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580. Let's get right into our top story. We had it live, but in case you missed it, speaking at a press conference in Pensacola, Governor Ron DeSantis once again.
He may not be able to do it.
COVID-19 cases
They just pulled us.
people in the 25 to 35 age range.
Hey, Dr. Klein?
Yes.
Basically socialize
Do you hear, hey, John, are you there?
different things, and in certain environments, that's.
Can you hear Dr. Klein? Dr. Klein, can you speak?
I can't hear John at all.
500 new cases reported today. The third.
No? Okay, so we can't, I can't get you guys connected through the phone here. Dr. Klein, would you like me to pass you John's number and you can give him a call here?
Yeah, I'm really not in a position to do that. But if you can have him call my office, okay, and then just leave his question that way. Or if he goes on Stages of Life Medical Institute, there's an information email, and he can send me an email that way.
Okay, I'll talk to him down the line.
All right, we tried anyway.
All right, thank you, doctor.
Have a good one.
All right, everybody, that was dangerous.